everybody. Welcome back to what I feel like is my millionth 605 Speaks for the month of April. And I'm really excited because I'm making my way to an entirely new county tonight, talking with somebody from somewhere that I've been, but not all over the county, and somebody that I haven't talked to from an area I haven't talked to before. So I'm excited to ask some new questions. As you can see on my wall, other than t-shirt of the day, which has been kind of t-shirt of the week, I don't have anything else upcoming and going on to talk about. I do want to kind of acknowledge, though, we've been getting some crazy weather, especially in the last probably 72 hours. I don't even know what the rain totals are here in the east side, but I know we're at flood levels in a lot of places. And just want to acknowledge, I have a lot of friends that are South Dakota born and raised, and they stay in touch with me by watching this, and they live in the areas in Nebraska that were affected by the tornadoes in the last couple of days. We're recording this on April 29th, 2024. And just a couple of days ago, I believe it was an E4 or E5 tornado laid out basically a pretty big swath of Nebraska. So to my friends that are down there, I'm glad you're all okay. And I hear it's coming back around again tomorrow. So get your basements ready, get your ruby slippers on. Get Toto in the basket, whatever you got to do, but stay safe, everybody. And for everybody in South Dakota, I actually would love to, besides talking to someone from every county, I think I would love to do a video panel and talk to some of our tornado survivors, because there's some amazing, amazing stories out there from South Dakota tornado survivors and tornado first responders. One of the things I learned from Mary Dick from Salem, South Dakota, that she was a first responder during our big Tornado Tuesday years ago. And she said, remember, when a tornado comes in the night and you've been in bed and you run to your basement, you're probably just in your pajamas. And when we come to rescue you, you're going to have to climb out over broken glass and splinters and wood. So always make sure you have a tornado box in your safe spot that has jeans, long sleeves, shoes, and gloves for everybody in your house, and it just stays down there, because she remembers how hard it was to hurt people rescuing them, and that really stuck with her for all those years. So as tornado season is upon us, be safe and be ready, because that's about all we can do. Now I'm gonna have to ask that question, because the area I'm talking to today, I don't know if tornadoes are where I live, so I'm excited to bring on to the screen with me Ashley. Hello, Ashley.
Hello.
So, and I promised her that these would be easy questions. She asked how she would prepare. And I said, you're going to know the answer to the first question. Tell me your town, your county, and your county seat.
Sure. So we're in Murdo, and the county is Jones County, smallest county in South Dakota.
Smallest geographically or population?
I think both. Somebody asked me about Clark, and I was like, no, I don't know is it Clark County? I don't even honestly know, but I was like, no, I think we're smaller. But yes, population of 480. So for the county, I think, the city of Murdo is 480. The county is just over 1,000. It's not very good.
That's not very many people.
Yeah.
I've been to family reunions with a couple hundred at them. Right? So
yeah.
Let's go into my next question that I came from my intro. Do you guys have tornado season, or are you more in the fire season?
I feel like we've been both. A couple years ago, we had a fire that happened. It was like a wheel bearing that came off the interstate, and it went through Okoton, is in our county. And it got pretty close to Murdo. It got too close for comfort. Let's put it that way. They were shutting the highway down. I live just outside of Murdo on the highway.
I remember that making the news.
Yeah.
Because didn't it cross? It either crossed a highway or crossed the actual interstate.
Yeah, it crossed the interstate. Yeah.
And so for anybody not from South Dakota, we have two major interstates, I-29, which is a north-south route, and I-90, which is the east-west route. And so she's talking about I-90, the yellow brick road to Sturgis for the people that come from out of state. And so that's 4 lanes with a real decent median in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why it really made the news was the fire was big enough to cross the interstate.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. So I'm not gonna lie, anytime there's like a high wind day, which is more often than not,
Right.
and it's super dry season, I have a little PTSD.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
when I think of Okoton, I go back and forth. I have a lot of friends in Rapid. I go back and forth quite a bit. And that house that's that's been worked on over the last few years that you can see from the interstate,
yep,
the orange and blue, that's a
yep,
landmark for me.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it used to be like an old schoolhouse actually. So
right.
and they bought it and converted it. Pretty cool.
And I feel like made it bigger, made it wider. It
I
might just be the colors though.
yeah, I think it's just the updating that they've done. I don't think that they've not necessarily extended it or anything, but um I don't know a lot about it. I just know
Yeah.
like when we were in high school, nobody lived there, and so we went. Um,
Yeah, it's
it's
kind of
just a
it's
ghost
always
town.
sort of been a landmark for the trip
Yeah,
across the way. But yeah, that it's really gone through some changes.
yeah,
Um, let's talk about the who, what, when, where's, and whys of Murdo. So Murdo is a town that is right on the interstate,
yes, we are right in between Sioux Falls and Rapid City. Is kind of our big.
and you're a little closer to the west than the east, but you're what a lot of people consider the middle.
Yep,
It's either Chamberlain to some people or Murdo to some
yep.
people. And in between Chamberlain and Murdo, there's no Wi-Fi. There's no signal. There's no radio. There's no nothing. You go in the
Right.
ditch there. You're there till morning because you can't get a call out. So
Yeah, yeah. It's great. I look at it as a perspective of we have like a lot of opportunity just being in that in between spot, whether it's for people to stop. Like we have an amazing city park that has like a walking path around it. And so a lot of people take advantage of that, especially when they're crossing state.
yeah,
Um, they'll grab food wherever or have their picnic or stop at the grocery store and get whatever they need. And like it reminds me that when I'm driving by a small town, like with my 4 children, that we could stop at the park and just eat too, and they can play
yes,
and we can eat and they
right,
can eat in the car. I don't care. They're busy.
right. You gotta give them some stretching room sometimes,
Yeah.
especially if it is a cross state adventure.
Right.
Finding a place where there's amenities nearby and somewhere to stretch. It's not just a restroom or it's not just a
Yeah.
gas station or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you lifelong from that area?
Yeah. Basically, we moved here when I was in kindergarten. Otherwise, I was in Pierre before. So in the
And
region.
did you ever move away and then come back? Did
Yeah,
you?
I went to school in Hawaii for a year.
Oh, that's away.
Yeah. So I I went to school at SDSU, and my freshman year, my roommate was like, I think we should go to Hawaii. And I was like, well, I kind of was like, okay with California or something, where it's still connected.
Right.
And she was like, we can do it. And so it was a huge stretch for me. When we were just going to go for one semester. And then I would have stayed longer, but my mom was like, we're not coming back at your birthday to see
Right.
you, and we're not flying you home for Christmas. And I was like, okay. So definitely one of those lifelong experiences that I will always be grateful for.
I've never been there, but I heard that the McDonald's in Hawaii has Spam,
Yeah.
and I love Spam. Like when I talk about Hawaii, I'm like, so they're big on Spam. Maybe I should go there. And I just
Everything.
recently learned about that their McDonald's have it, and I'm like, drive-through Spam? You're
Right.
kidding.
Yeah. So like on their breakfast menu, yeah, it's like eggs and Spam, or I think there's even like a lunch option or something. I
That's
was like,
fantastic.
okay. Yeah. Or
We don't even have drive-through Chislik, and Chislik is our food
right.
in South Dakota.
Right.
Heck,
That's a really good idea, actually.
there should be a drive-through Chislik place, and there should be more Chislik trucks,
Right.
like Chislik food trucks. But
For sure.
when somebody comes to Murdo and they are not from South Dakota, I do feel a lot of South Dakotans know what Murdo has for a famous attraction. There's actually probably 2 or 3 things that I consider in that area, but the one that would be the in-town attraction, I feel like it's well known enough in South Dakota. Tell us what you think I'm referring to.
The Pioneer Auto Museum, the big
Yep.
green car. So
Yes.
that's what anywhere I travel or any towns that I visit, they're like, Murdo, that's the big green car. And I was like, yep. So
Yes.
yeah, they're celebrating their 70th anniversary this year. So they're doing a little in August. We're doing a little, we'll have a celebration on town. And I was just talking to the owner last night. He had called me and he was like, I want to bring back the car auction and I want to do all the things just like we used to. But so we'll see what happens.
It's got to be hard. We have such fluctuating weather. It's got to be anybody doing anything with classic or collectible cars has got to be going hail day,
Right.
Right. Like any day could be a hail day.
Right. Yeah.
What is something that your town should be famous for? What is something that only the locals know about?
Well, that's a hard one. Maybe not, but I don't know.
If the car museum was shuttered overnight, God forbid, and you had to have a new thing, what do you think the town would pick?
We do have South Dakota's best cheeseburger picked by the Argus Leader. It's like the paper in Sioux Falls. What's that called?
Yeah.
So, but like I said, that's kind of a lot of people know about that.
I feel like, don't you guys have a pretty killer steakhouse, or am I applying that from?
We have a building that was a steakhouse that there's no business in it right now, so a lot of people pull into it. It's hard, honestly.
So you need a killer steakhouse.
Yes.
Somebody's got to put a drive up on it and get some Chislik going
right. Yes, the Chislik drive through, and then you can go in and
yeah, if you want a whole baked potato and a sit down, we got that. But if you just need your Chislik for the last half of your vacation trip, we got you.
Right.
At the next city council meeting, you're going to be up going, you guys.
Right.
We're going to call it Murdo Meats.
Right. There you go.
and you're going to change it to MEETS. So it'll be like meet here for Murdo Meats. Oh, that's
plan, honestly.
I know.
Yeah.
I have all these good ideas, but I'm too lazy. I want someone else to do them so I can just get the Chislik.
Right. It's my favorite part of my day is coming up with all the ideas and sharing with everyone.
That's right. Mentioning the Argus Leader, does your town or the county, anywhere in the county, what's the media like there? Is there like a daily paper, a weekly paper? Is it more of an online thing?
Yes, so we do have a weekly paper still. The publication company runs out of Phillip. But we have our own office and everything, and the gals do the paper there. And then, yes, social media based is probably the next. So, yeah.
If you were to turn on the TV and want to get your late night 10 o'clock news, where would you be picking up your major network station from?
We get both. We get Sioux Falls and Rapid. Okay. So like we don't use, well, we live in the country, so we can't utilize the local cable company. But we use Hulu and we pick up both stations from there. So it's kind of crazy. Like we have that option, I guess. So a lot of the times we go more with the Rapid City station because it covers more of the, surrounding areas. We follow the other students and the kids and whatnot and what's going on in those schools. So that's kind of our go-to. But
how about, like you said, only 1,000 people in the county, 400 in your town. Does your town have a hospital? And does your town have an ER?
We don't have an ER, but we do have a medical clinic.
Okay.
That's with a nurse practitioner. And I actually worked at the clinic, I don't know, 8 or so years ago. And at that time we had a doctor that traveled from Pierre that came down once every 2 weeks about. And since then he has passed and that just never got reestablished. So most of our emergency care is in Pierre, but that makes like our volunteer ambulance service like that much more important.
Right.
We were one of the first counties to be able to have like a teledoc in the ambulance so that if there is something, on the interstate, you get a lot of accidents that you need to act right away. You can't wait till you get to Pierre. So they're there and they can kind of guide those that have been through that training.
The more extensive treatment can start right away.
Yeah, because we don't have a paramedic. we just have, everyone's just volunteers. So I think one of the gals is working on her paramedic license, but yeah.
Do you have volunteer fire department as well then?
Yep. Yeah.
And who provides then do you have city police or is your law enforcement provided by sheriff?
We do have counties. We have county sheriff and deputy, and then we have one city police. And then we have one highway patrol here as well. So, I mean, it's a pretty busy area because we have 83 from the south coming up as well. So there's a lot of traffic and a lot of moving parts all the time. And we have a pilot gas station.
I was just going to say, you've got that big truck stop right on the edge. And if something, that tends to draw more people in, but also trucking traffic is a specific kind of traffic. Right. And we know when it's winter and it's icy or when there's high winds, there's a lot of responding to those events.
Yep. Yeah. So we have some really good law enforcement, like so just all and volunteers. Like our volunteer fire department is 90% ranchers. So it's kind of like that when one person's ranch is, having a fire, like everybody just goes. And I think that's like the beauty of a small town though, too, is the year that we had that big fire, obviously the fire department was out there and they called surrounding fire departments to come out. But then there was ranchers that like drove their tractors because there was one house in the fire route. So they tilled up the land around them to like just stop, taking time out of their cutting season, because I think it was haying season at the time. And
that definitely grass and land fires like that. It's we need to save the one if we want to protect the all.
Right. Yeah.
But otherwise it will come to you. How about schools? Do you have all the way elementary through high school right there in Murdo? Are you a consolidated? Are there other towns that come together?
We have K through or preschool through 12. Actually, we have Oahe Child Development Center for the preschool that services the Murdo area. So we have our own teacher that drives from Vivian every day, and then I think K through 12. I mean, we're small, but I think we're at like 175 for students.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Our elementary tends to be more populated, and then the high school kind of dwindles out a little bit. We do attract some students from White River. On the flip side, they attract some of our students. So, I mean,
when you live on that, sometimes the school border still has you in it, but now you actually are closer to the next. Yeah. Where your siblings went to the next. People try and keep the kids all together.
Yeah.
We talked about what you think Murdo is famous for. What is something that other South Dakotans, like myself, like I said, the first thing I would talk about is that you guys have the car museum. What is something else that people might say or describe Murdo as, and they're a South Dakotan describing it to somebody new, and then we're getting it totally wrong?
Sure. We have a 9-hole golf course, a member-owned 9-hole golf course, and it is in very good condition. Like those members and the board put a lot of TLC into the golf course. When Pierre had all the flooding, like all of their golf courses were underwater, they actually came to Murdo. And I mean, they weren't like, oh, this is better than some of our golf courses. Like, obviously they have more
holes.
Yeah. But a lot of them were surprised on how well and how maintained the golf course really was. And like, when they established, I can't remember when like the golf course was kind of established. So city owns it, but the members owns the land, but the members own the golf course side of things. But it was sand tee boxes and sand greens, so you're putting in the sand. And like now our greens, my son was just out golfing a meet today, and it just looks really nice. Like they do such a good job, and it's still an attraction for even the peer people like to come down and something different for a day or whatever. And we also have a really fun ranch rodeo weekend that we do. We have like a bronc match, and then the ranch rodeo is the following day. And then we have the Megan Newsom Community Celebration, which is another area that I put some of my heart and dedication into. So Megan was one of my friends that in December of 2020, she passed away. She unexpectedly, she had like, I think like a brain aneurysm type thing.
Oh, wow.
She was in the middle of painting and stood up and she was gone.
Oh, wow.
So they have 4 children, and 2 of our kiddos, their kiddos, are my kids the same age. We lived across the highway from each other, like very close. So her husband wanted to do a big event in her honor. So his 5-year goal is to have Eric Church, and next year is 5 years, and I don't think we're quite there.
Everybody, get on the Twitter, get on the Facebook.
Right.
We need Eric Church to come to Murdo. We will front him 9 holes of golf.
Right. Exactly. Well, what do you want?
Right. He can have his picture taken with whatever car he wants.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah.
We probably can't give him any of them, but
right. Can't, not yet anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're doing good, and it's been a lot of fun, a lot of learning as like a committee trying to put on a big celebration weekend. So we try to hit all facets of Megan, because Megan was a huge community person and just wanted her community to be happy and together all the time. So we start the weekend with like a 9-hole golf game. We call it the ball smack. So it's not serious. We just want to have fun.
Right.
The kids are out there riding on golf carts. There's children everywhere.
I'm opening another window here on my little devicey. What is there a website?
Yeah, so our Facebook page is the Megan Newsom CC is what that is. Our Instagram is MNC Celebration, which we just started our Instagram page. So
let me see if I can find it. I don't have my kiddo here to help me. Internet.
One of our younger committee members was like, listen, you guys got to get with the time. I was like, Facebook is the time.
Yeah, it's the time that I'm in. That's what I say. All this talk about TikTok, and I'm like, I don't know how to wind a clock. Leave me alone.
Yeah. So,
I'm struggling to find it, but I will, and I'll post it so that we can encourage Eric Church from afar.
Right. Exactly. We do a soapbox derby too, so we try to throw it back a little old school, and then we just have fun games at the park, and then our concert series is Saturday night, and then we do Cowboy Church on Sunday evening. So Megan's biggest thing was her friends, family, and faith. So
get it all together there.
Yeah, put it all to one weekend. So
how, if someone comes to is a transplant, shows up in Murdo one day, this is going to be home, how are they going to make a living? What is the job economy like there? What if somebody comes, are most of your people commuting for their jobs, like to a different town nearby? Are they working in town?
Sure. So again, we're mostly tourism focused, are based here. We do have, we're the headquarters for West Central Electric Co-op. And there's the West River Lyman Jones. Our water is based out of here for the area. But otherwise, yeah, there is some travel outside of the community to Pierre for nursing. We have a lot of nurses in the community. But
and just for reference, for anybody watching this that isn't from around here, Pierre, spelled like Pierre, but pronounced correctly as Pierre, is our state capital. From Murdo to Pierre, how long of a drive is it, time and miles?
It's about 50 miles, 45 minutes. So,
and that's nothing.
Yeah.
In the country. Yeah. So
great. Well, and that's why, we've learned that you talk in minutes, not miles, because cities 5 miles can be 20 minutes or whatever.
Right.
So,
Or raining like it was the last 2 days and be your hour and a half.
Right.
And if it turns to snow, maybe you're going to be Laura Inglesing it and just, we're going to dig us a hole in the side and stay here.
Right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, but our main employers are the pilot truck stop and the school district, and then West Central Electric. So
yeah, and it is, when you mentioned the pilot, there's not just the pilot, there's another station right across the street. I mean, it really is an easy on, easy off stop
yeah,
for crossing the 90. I know that if I leave here, I can get all the way to Murdo. And if I fuel up at Murdo, I can get all the way to Rapid and then back to Murdo.
right.
And I do think that's why, even if geographically it's not the middle, it is that way.
Right.
So,
well, and so I'm the economic development director, and like our big thing, I've been in this position for 2 years now, and our big thing is like, how can we get the people to go past the four-way stop? So like the gas stations are, before the four-way stop, like what can we do to get them past? So we have this big blue building, white roof. It's our auditorium. And I was just meeting with a friend the other day that's the athletic director at the school, and she was like, I just think we just need to paint murals all over that. And I was like, I've been saying that for 2 years. So I think we have a project that we're strumming up in our brains to happen.
That's definitely, we're starting to see more murals in Sioux Falls, but there's a lot of rules about that here, because it can't become like a form of advertising.
Sure.
You can't cheat the sign rules by painting a mural. Is
Sure.
kind of what they're doing. But like Rock Valley, Iowa, which is an hour or so away. No, I'm sorry, Rock Rapids, Iowa, which is an hour or so away from Sioux Falls. They have murals on all their different downtown buildings. There's one that's got a bunch of people that from the boomtown era of that town. Their portraits are there on the side of their library and theater. It's a theater scene, all kinds of things like that. And I've been to I want to say in Marshall, Minnesota, they've got some really gorgeous murals too, where we drove around more of the town because you could just see over the corner. Oh, there's another one there.
Right.
So,
well, and like Falkton's grain bin one, like that one's so cool. One of my favorites. But
and then when you paint it too, what I always think is, everybody's trying to take a selfie. Somebody needs to remember to build a pedestal spot where you can set up your camera and run and be in the timer.
Right. That's really smart. That's what I was like, remember like a year or two ago when selfie stations were cool, like the mall had like a selfie station. I was like, we need to do that because they're all separated by these
station.
Yeah. Like there's all these pillars that separate it. So I was like, I don't know, just fun.
You got to paint a car on it and get your car guy to give you a car door. So the car door is coming off the building and looks like it's opening to the car, and that's your selfie station. Everybody's waving. It'll be like, make your way to Murdo.
Right. It'd be awesome.
I told you before that I had a trick question. This is my trick question.
Okay.
Set aside the person that you think is probably the most famous person from Murdo. Throw that person out the window. Set that thought aside. If it weren't for them, who's the most famous person from Murdo?
Dave Geisler, Pioneer Auto Museum.
Quick answer.
Yeah.
She was ready with it. I am guessing.
I mean, he might be tied with John Thune. Like,
that's what I was just going to say now. If I wouldn't have said toss out who I think is the most famous, would you have said Dave first?
I probably would have said John because, I mean, obviously he's more worldly known, probably, maybe. Where Dave, I think Dave has a huge impact on the world. So he's in his 80s now. And so, I mean, a little cognitive decline. But if he's in that museum, he's talking to you. And so I was down there a couple months ago, and there was these ladies that came. And then they came back. I was there when they came back the second time, and they're like, yeah, we just wanted to sit and talk with you. And he was like, okay. So he sat down and they just talked. Like, yeah. He was like, do you want coffee? We'll go get coffee. Like, so.
Well, and honestly, he would at least have the prestige to be able to say, nobody probably drives to Murdo hoping to run into John Thune.
Right.
But people on purpose come to Murdo to have coffee with him.
Right.
So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely been but watching John kind of evolve, I guess you can say, has been fun too. Like, my dad wasn't from Murdo, but his dad lived here. So like he, the summer months type thing.
Right.
He grew up in Phillip. So then when he was in his adult life, then he started ranching with my grandpa. And so, he's been here kind of forever since in that sense. But my dad and John are about in the same age range. They hang out with the same people. So it's not like they're super close friends, but they're friends. Like he has his personal number.
There's only 400 people. You wouldn't have any friends if you didn't make friends with everybody.
Right. Well, so
and half of them are probably related to you somehow.
Right. Well, and my dad is, the rancher, and when something's off in the community, like everybody knows because you're 480 people. And my dad,
and that goes back to that mentality of if something's wrong, if we don't fix it for one, it will eventually hurt us all.
Right. Yeah. 100%. But one day he was coming in and they lived past the golf course, and he was like, yeah, there was this guy running. There was like 2 or 3 other guys, and they were all dressed in black. And he was like, what is going on? Like he was thinking, well, it was his Secret Service agents, but Dad was thinking it was like somebody trying to run him down. You know what I mean? So it just made for a good story.
They didn't do the 1 finger wave, so he knew they weren't from town.
Right.
That's how you get kicked out as a tourist.
Yeah. So, but it's been fun and it's been good. And he comes back a year for our invitational tournament. There's a fun fact. We have the longest standing invitational basketball tournament in South Dakota.
Oh, wow.
And John Thune's dad was one of the creators of the tournament. So, so it's Harold Thune Auditorium.
What about in the rest of your county or outside the borders of town? What are some of the maybe natural attractions, or is there, we always talk about everything in South Dakota. It doesn't matter if you live in the biggest city or the smallest town, you're within walking distance of either hunting, fishing, camping, hiking. For your area, which one of those kind of things is in the top 10?
Sure. We do have a lot of attraction for hunters. And it might be partially our location. I think people travel from Murdo too. I wouldn't say we have the most prime ground, but we do have some really good areas that we have a couple hunting lodges. And then I never thought of it in this way, but I have a friend that owns like an art gallery on the prairie in Okoton. And she was like, I just want to have like a hiking trail. And I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, because I love hiking on the prairie. And I was like, interesting. So that is always something that's in the back of my mind. Sometimes you get these grant possible proposals or another person that's talking about something similar that I'm always like, could we do that? Like, how would we get that going? And so the railroad used to go through Murdo across our main street. And then when the railroad or when Interstate 90 came, well, no, it was the highway first, but the highway went through the bottom of Main Street. So all of our businesses basically shifted from the top to the bottom. And our railroad isn't in use anymore. So that's always been like one of those things too, that I was like, could we do like that hiking path to Okoton and Draper or
that follows the railroad?
Yeah. So, but the railroad still owns the railroad. So
is Murdo one of the towns that it sort of came to be in its location because of the railroad?
Yeah.
Like the town proper was born off the railroad site.
Yeah. Yeah. We were booming like on our, even I'd say even like in the 60s and 70s, we were over 1,000 in population. So it's just been kind of one of those shifts that I have big dreams and goals to get back there someday. I don't know how to do it, but we're just going to navigate our way through it and as a community and get back there.
Right.
So, yeah.
When you're looking at what the town has now, and like you said, there's always ebb and flow. Like, do you think of your town when you think of either population or business? Is it a growing town, a shrinking town, or a town that the core of it stays the same for people?
Sure. Studies would show it's declining.
In population?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I would say that it's just like stable. Like we're comfortable
Right.
a little bit where we're at. Um,
Oh,
and yeah.
we just got a comment. My friend Thea, Thea, I'm glad you're watching, and it was you I thought of when she said it. She says, "I love the prairie hike idea."
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
It's a fun idea.
yeah, if you know grants that can get this girl some prairie grass seeds, hook her up.
Right.
So
Um, but yeah, I think that right now it's just we're comfortable with where we're at, and I kind of see my position or me as an individual in the community, not even as economic development director, is just kind of making that little bit of a ripple effect. Like if you drop the droplet of water and just a little bit by a little bit, and making just a little bit of changes that are positive for the community and offer more opportunity than where we're at. So we'll see. It's fun. It's always fun, right? Like trying to figure out everyone's goals
everybody
and
has
dynamics.
wants and everybody has needs, and once you figure out how to support the needs, you can chase the wants.
Yeah.
What is something that Murdo doesn't have? And I like basically for you to get any of the big city amenities, you're going to have to go 50 minutes to an hour.
Right.
What is something that you wish you could bring to town? Would it be like anything from a big box store like a Walmart or a drive-through food place, or is it something like not even for tourists but for the locals, something like an outdoor adventure experience?
Sure. I This is where I have so many different ideas of like where we could get creative. I should preface with like my degree really was in hospitality and tourism management. So like tourism is my jam. And there's not a degree for economic development. That's kind of a fun fact is you just kind of go with it because every
Right.
community is so different. But I think what we're really missing right now is some sort of like even just like a small manufacturer.
A job no one has to commute to.
Right. Like I think about like what would it look like if a trailer manufacturer was here, something that maybe isn't like we need 30 people, but we're going to start with 5 and then kind of grows from there.
Right.
And that's right along the interstate or, another thing is like, we don't have like a meat processing plant, which is really ironic. I feel like
when you're in ranch country.
Yeah. Like Chamberlain, the community uses like the Chamberlain locker, the Valentine, Nebraska locker, or Wall. So, I mean, there you're looking at, over an hour and a half just for that. But as for like fun things, my sisters and my 2 younger sisters live in town as well. And so we all have little kids. So our big thing 5 or so years ago was like, what if we created like this like play space inside, but it like doubled as like a community space, like a meeting space. So you didn't have to, all you had to do was like find the babysitter, but you could have your meeting.
Right.
And,
right.
And it would be open to the public or whatever. Like if you're traveling through and it's winter but your kid needs to run around, like, I feasibility wise, like
right.
The equipment's expensive. It's not cheap. But yeah. And then who's going to operate and run it and whatnot. But, it's definitely been it's kind of one of those areas that we really, had thought about back then.
That kind of leads me to a question, because I know in a lot of farm families, while dad's running the farm, mom's commuting in for a job, because the world revolves around health insurance, and sometimes you got to do that. What are the options for childcare?
So this is like one of those big things in economic development that we talk about all the time is childcare, housing, and workforce. So I actually was just on a panel at the Governor's Office of Economic Development for childcare, as the community was awarded the child care implementation grant that GoEd offered. Right now, we have 2 providers. When I started my position, we were down to no providers. At COVID, we lost 2 of them aged out, and then 1 moved. Her husband took a position in Chadron, Nebraska. And so we went without for a whole year. And then I had a friend that her grandparents lived here, and she was going through a divorce. And she's like, I think I'm going to try it. Like, she went from a lab tech to childcare, but she's still here.
I've always thought that people should, in general, in any size town, that daycare should partner with assisted livings and nursing homes, because every little kid needs a grandma and every grandma needs a little kid.
It would be such a huge solution.
Like,
yeah.
Just line up the rocking chairs. Dave can have all the kids in the car museum. He can just be chatting with them. He'll teach them all how to turn over an engine.
No problems at all. That's all good.
There's a whole lot of thinking out of the box that can be done. But, but I feel like as we see a lot of South Dakota towns lose their nursing home options as well, because it's hard to staff them and hard to finance them. And then we're losing our daycare. And historically, in all cultures, those 2 age groups took care of each other.
Yeah.
And everybody in the middle. Yeah. I feel like as our world has become more spaced apart, and we don't necessarily stay where our biological family is, maybe we need to go back to growing that to where those 2 generations are taking care of each other again.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's one of the we have not ever had like an assisted living in Murdo ever, I don't think. So and we're not in the state now where we could.
Right.
But I agree. I have always thought that was like the best solution for
a lot of loneliness on one side and watchers for the other.
Right.
Yeah. What's the demographic like? What are the average age of the citizens of Murdo or of your county? And what is the makeup of that? Are they men, women, children of, what age groups are the predominant age groups? And then what kind of diversity do you have?
Sure. So we have our highest population is in that 60 and above range. And then it kind of skips over my age range and goes to those 20-year-olds. We have some 20-year-olds that are coming back up, and it's a little bit more elevated between the 30 and 40s than their 30 to 40-year-olds. So I like to really think that it's growing. Like we're getting better and not worse. I would say probably more males. I don't really know that question, I guess, but and the only reason I say that is we do.
A lot of them are farm families.
Yeah, I would say a lot of them are ranchers and single and ready to mingle, but only at certain times of the year because the other times are busy.
Right. And a lot of the tractors have Wi-Fi now.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you could have Zoom on the prairie.
Right. Well, isn't there like a farmers only?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You get a StreamYard link like me. You can have chats of up to 10. Everybody can get in and just chat. Be like,
yeah.
They can right away reveal their qualifying exclusion things, like, so you've got ragweed, ragweed allergy. You can't come out here.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Whenever my brother is a farmer that married a lovely young lady that grew up in San Francisco. Like when my brother decided to take over the family farm, I looked at her hard and said, "You sure?" Like, right. That's a thing you're taking on. Besides, my brother is a thing. So
right. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Well, and that it's fun. I have a friend that's a little older than me, and she kind of was like in the Scottsdale area and then Denver, and then she found her husband. I think it was like the Denver Stock Show or something like that. And he was like, "Yeah, we're going to go back and we're going to live on the ranch." And she was like, "This will be fun." And she was like, "Wait, what?" So,
right.
It's a whole nother scope.
When is the best time of year for somebody to visit Murdo if they're just coming through as a tourist?
Sure. I mean, it's probably the inevitable of the summertime that we have we try to have events, every 2 to 3 weeks and going on in the summer. Um, but I I honestly think that even when you come in the off season or in the winter months, like you can just see so much. Like that I also think it would be really fun if the ranchers would do like an agritourism thing. If I could even get one or two ranchers to do like the whole agritourism thing where people can watch like a calf be born. And I was like, you don't understand, like people will pay to do that experience.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
or even like letting them camp out in their pastures under the stars. Like and I get it. My husband's part-time rancher as well as my dad, obviously. So like I get all of the reasons of why not to, but it's like if we could just let our guard down a little bit and show a little bit of our world,
Oh
I think
yeah.
people would be so much more understanding a lot of the times too.
There's a whole network of people that they basically they get on the network and they're like, so you can come vacation at our farm, but you have to work.
Right. Yeah.
So they get free labor, and it's probably shitty labor.
Right.
Like if I went, I'd be useless. There's a reason I stayed in town. But even if it's simple stuff is like, you guys are going to all pull weeds for an hour.
Right.
You're going to count rocks in the driveway for an hour.
You're gonna
things
have to
like that.
scoop the horse trailer. Like
Yeah. This will be really cool when you're on the gram. This
right.
is it. Like,
Right.
it's going to set you apart.
Exactly. So yeah, I just think I mean the roommate that I went to Hawaii with, she grew up in Sioux Falls, and so like she was like, well, what do you mean? Like what do you do when the calf is born? How long do you keep it in the barn? And I was like, no, it's born and you're out. Like
You're lucky if it's in the barn when it comes.
right. Exactly. So she came home with me for a weekend and she pulled a calf. Like my dad was like, okay. So he like walked her through like pulling a calf and everything. And still makes me like even now, like when we had a blizzard or have a blizzard, she's like, are all the cows in the barn? And I was like,
Right.
Annie, you cannot get 500 cows in the barn. Like they're made for this. It'll be okay. We might lose one or two, but it's okay.
Right. I know better when it snows. My brother has goats. When it snows, I ask him if he's got all the goats in the house.
Right.
He's like, we don't put the goats in the house, Jenny. I'm like, well, you should.
Right.
I will come over and let them in the house.
I know. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And it's just such a different world for some, and that's okay. Like,
well, I'm going to pitch one of my other recent crazy ideas. I think goat yoga is crazy. Have you heard of that?
yeah.
I think that's weirdly gross and crazy. I know what goats walk in. I don't want one walking on my back. But every little girl wants to have a pony, and then they grow up and we don't all get horses in real life. So I was just saying the other day that somebody with some horses, even if they're just boarding horses or whatever, they could have a Sunday thing called mimosas and mares, and ladies could just come and drink champagne and pet ponies.
Right.
I'd be like, you got to pay $25. We'll give you one glass. We'll give you a wristband, maybe. I don't know. And then you can just get blitzed and pet the horses.
Right.
And I feel like that would just be the best Sunday.
Yeah. Right.
And then we take you home on the horse because you're blitzed.
Right.
So
again,
yeah.
I feel like you're just an entrepreneur at heart.
Oh, but I'm too lazy. Like I have horses in my next that I share a fence with horses. So if I want to get blitzed and go pet horses, I can just go outside and do it.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever would invite my friends over. They'd be like, this is real weird, but
right. I had my friend's daughter, she raised a cow from calf or whatever. And so they would go out every day and she would like cuddle up with her cow, like
yep.
kind of like Ferdinand when you watch Ferdinand the bull. And yeah, it was totally one of those scenarios. So
but you can never name something you're gonna eat. It makes it so much harder. So much harder.
Yeah.
So that's at least horses usually make it out okay.
Right.
If you were going to tell the public a secret about Murdo, a secret thing that makes Murdo the place for you. You came back from a literal tropical island. What is the secret sort of perfect thing about Murdo that once we all hear it, we're all going to want to move there?
Sure. I mean, I do feel like it's a little bit of just a small town vision at the same time, but like the fact that I can drop my kids' bikes off at any friend's house in town and they can cruise all over town, kind of I mean, we're not talking my 5-year-old, this is my 10 and 12. So there's a little bit more, but they can ride their bikes to the pool. They can go out to the baseball field. They can, go to the drive-in and have ice cream or a cheeseburger or whatever it is. And
drive-in movie?
No, that's what South Dakota's best cheeseburger is at our drive-in.
I was just saying, if you've held out 51 minutes without saying you have a drive-in theater, then the locals are trying to keep a secret.
Right. Yeah. No. But it's just that like the community is always there and always watching. And even when it feels like sometimes there's that like underlying frustration because maybe we're not seeing eye to eye on a project or whatever, like they still are going to be like, that's, the community is family. So like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, right. They're always there to really support the kids and everything that they do. And I think that's just one of the greatest things. Like when we made it to state basketball for the girls a couple years ago, and the whole town was shut down. They were like, sorry, we're out.
Yeah.
And so like everybody went to Huron to support. We have one of the girls is a really good golfer and made, placed at state her whole high school career.
What's your mascot? What's your school mascot?
The Coyotes.
Yeah. Trying to ride that USD train, huh? Yeah.
We're orange and blue.
Oh, there we go. So a perfect mix of the blue and the red. And this is what we're gonna get. That's just like that house in Okoton.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and like that is the thing is like I think that there is so much like school pride in our community that people just paint everything orange and blue. Like I've even caught myself when I was doing a logo that I was like, oh, I really like the orange and blue. And I was like, okay, like I gotta step away. So one of the teachers at the school district and I are doing like a youth leadership program for the first year this year. And so we're all excited about that and getting that going. But I was like, I'm going to step away from the orange and blue because it just needs to. But
if you develop a team of young leaders and they show up at all their first meetings in blue shirts with orange ties, they will not be forgotten.
Right. Yeah.
So there's something to be said for brand packaging.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that's just kind of what the community is all about, honestly. And Murdo is just having each other's back and then just, like I said, really supporting the youth and everything that the youth does. So
that's good. That's the way to keep, even if you don't grow, that's the way to keep your town stable.
Right.
Staying the same because you want them to either, it's hard to say never leave because a lot of kids, they're going to leave for higher education, but you want them to come back.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of like our main focus right now with the development, the economic development is like, how can we make sure that they know that, yes, we welcome you back at any point. Like if it's a 2-year degree or you just need to go away for a year and come back with a trade or, we need managers at the restaurants and truck stop too. It's not, we're not picky.
There's so much more opportunity just to learn about different things, even through the expansion of that. I feel like is one of the positives about COVID is more people learned how to connect and communicate using the internet. That's how this project was born of me getting bored during COVID. And so I'm just going to invite strangers into my home and we'll talk about it. But the fact that so many young people can reach out and see or learn or hear about, and then how can they go outside and make it real life in your town?
Right. Right. 100%.
Everything from some young person saying, I'm going to open a coffee hut.
Right.
you know, and
that's my oldest son. It loves the guitar. He wants to be an 80s rock star. Like just already trying to grow his hair out. And I was like, what are we going for? And he showed me a picture the other day, and it was the permed.
oh, there we go.
Hair. Yeah, like, I mean, he is ready to go. And I was like, it's going to be a hard sell on your dad, but we'll try.
Yeah.
So, but he always tells me, he's like, I'm just going to open a music store in Murdo. And he's like, why not? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? And he's like a Haggerty's in Rapid City. Like, why can't we have one in Murdo? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I'm not here to crush your dream. I'm here to be like, you should totally do it.
I will tell you, you show him this. I'll tell you, young man, why they don't have one yet. It's because no one's grown their hair out. And now you are, and you will bring the magic.
Yeah.
That's it. No one yet has had the gumption to go
right.
Motley Crue.
Yeah. I know. He was even the other day, it was a school dress up day for the end of the school year, and jeans, I think it was. So he had his blue jean, like 80s jacket, and he was like, I think I might wear the crop top. And I was like, okay, like
it's still too cold for that here.
Right? I was like, oh, we just gotta tone it down a little bit.
And now when you say 80s and I'm thinking about it, is he more like John Mellencamp or more like Poison?
Poison, like AC/DC.
Hard rock. Okay.
Yeah. Like yeah.
I think he can do it.
Yeah.
I'll and if in the middle of the night I'll wake up with some stupid name for it, because that's what happens every time I do one of these things.
Yeah.
And then if he has a Chislic drive-through.
Meet Music in Murdo.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I try to always let my guests go after about an hour because I want to let them get back to their real lives now that we can go outside and have real lives. What would you like to have as a final thought? What about the magic of Murdo? What's
sure.
your closing line?
I just went through the Leadership South Dakota program, and like my whole tagline of the whole thing was like, always go past the 4-way stop. So most rural communities either have a 4-way stop or a 2-way stop or maybe one light. But if you just take that extra time to like drive up the road and around down Main Street and see what's there, like I think you'd be surprised in most communities on really what rural does provide for South Dakota. So, and we're growing. We're going to grow. Rural is going to grow. I just know it. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for talking to me from, like I said, a new place that I haven't had a chat about yet. I'm going to sign you off.
All right. Thank you.
Everybody. Thank you so much, Ashley. Now, every time I stop in Murdo for gas, I'm going to have visions of lots of strange things until someday I'm going to come up there and I just know it. I'm going to look up the street and be like, look at that. They got a coffee hut and it sells mimosas and there's a horse harnessed outside. They on a hitching post. And I'll just know that she got a hold of somebody and she was like, here's what we're going to do. Because I know that would get me to go past a 4-way stop and be like, pet this horse for $5. And I'd be like, take my money, please. I am super excited to have checkmarked another county off the list. I am still looking for so many more. And also just from more people from counties I've already talked to that want to talk about whatever their passion, their delight in being a South Dakotan is. Again, take care. Our tornado and fire season is coming upon us. Other states don't even have that idea of that fire is a season. and it sure is here. But have your weather kits ready. Feel free to rewatch my recording with Phil Schreck, where we talked about all kinds of weird weather. I should get those guys back on and do a PSA about weather safety. And, plan your summer to get off the beaten path. We don't just stop in all the little towns for gas. Stop there and go to their diner and eat a meal, shop in their stores, get a cup of coffee, just give a little back every time you go somewhere. So good night, everybody. Have a great week.